Greetings hobbyists, this is Arsans and in this video we're going to have a look at the do's and don'ts of booleaning and how to fix boolean errors. So I'm going to start with the first thing that I think is probably the most important to mention, and probably the bit that's going to be the most contentious as well, and that is that when you want to bring objects together, for example, if I've got this cube and this sphere, the first don't is don't just join them together. Some people are going to disagree with me on this, and that's fine. Feel free to have a rant in the comments section. You're very welcome to, and it's good for other people to hear those opinions. But if I just take these two objects, I'm just going to Shift and D to copy them, and I just select one, then the other, and then press Control and J to join them, this is not a viable option if you're looking to 3D print. And the people that will go against this will say, yes, that's fine though, it's not a problem. Most slicing software can just come straight out and fix this. And you know what? They are correct. A lot of slicing software will generally fix this and it won't cause you too much problems. So if you want to do it for your own parts, that's fine, but sometimes it won't fix them, it can cause problems, and importantly, if you're putting something up for sale, this just isn't a very professional end product, leaving something that might cause problems for the person that's purchasing it. Now at the same time, if you are going to be putting something up for free, or you're downloading something for free, for example from Thingiverse, and when you bring that STL into Blender you find it's got a load of internal faces, well, you've got it for free and the person's probably learning what they're doing, so cut them some slack. There are ways of fixing this, and I've got a video of that. There's a link in the top right hand corner and in the description. But if you're going to be making people pay for it, don't do that, just boolean them together. Now a big do, as far as I'm concerned, is to use bool tools. It's going to save you a lot of time. If you haven't got bool tools, it's native to Blender, and all you need to do is come to Edit, Preferences, go to the add-ons section, type in bool, and you've got bool tools there. You just need to tick it and then save preferences. And what that will allow you to do is, instead of having to come here, add modifier, boolean, and then if I want a union boolean, you click there and then you click the object and it booleans it together. If I just undo that, all you do is click the object that you want to be the object that's going to have an effect on the other, and then click the other, and then for example in a union, Control and plus on the number pad, and it will join it together. And you've still got the options here to do an exact boolean or a fast boolean, and over here you've got the options still on the cube to change things around. The other thing that's really good about this is that if you've got multiple objects, for example if I Shift and D and bring that over there, you can select two objects that you want to apply to the last one, and as long as the last one is the object that's going to be affected, and let's say for example I press Control and minus, it will do both of them. Now in that same vein, I do want to mention one other thing. Now this is probably not going to cause errors here because there's not enough problematic geometry, but you can use this to click an object, click another object, and then click the final object and do something, for example, like join them together, so Control and plus. And you'll see here that that has, if I just H and then select that object and H, that does work, but it can cause some slight minor problems. I think this is just shading errors, so there's nothing actually problematic there. But sometimes when you're booleaning multiple objects together, you will find you have problems. Now, just to cover how to fix that, there are two options here. The first is click one object, then click the other if you're joining, and click the one that they've got in common last. That is more likely to work. So you'll notice that we're joining the two objects to the one in the center. If we do it the other way round, for example, we've got that, that, and that, this furthest out sphere isn't actually overlapping with the cube, and it does have a tendency to cause more problems, whereas there, and there, you're probably less likely to get issues. The final thing you can do is, if you're having problems with booleans where they're not working very well when you're trying to join multiple things together, is just to do it section by section. For example, join those two, Control and plus, then I can just hide that, and then join this combined object to that one, Control and plus, and hide that, and that's more likely to work. Now, that does get a little bit more tedious, that has to be said, but it is more likely that you're going to get a solution, and also it allows you to solve the problems as you go. So that would be my recommendation for that. Now, if you do want to speed that up slightly, if you have hard ops, if you press Control and tilde, you get this hops helper menu, and it does have quite a useful feature, which is the Boolean solver being non-destructive or destructive. Now, what we mean by that is if I just say do these two objects and Control and plus, when I click on the object that it's being combined to, we actually have the modifier here. We can always change it. For example, I could actually change this to a difference still. That's not a problem. Or back to the union or an intersection. That's where you just get the middle section that they both share. So you've still got the ability to edit these things. And if I really wanted to, and let's keep that as a difference, I could still, for example, G and move this around. So you've still got that option because nothing has been done permanently. Just going to undo that. Now that has that ability to modify things and change things around afterwards as a positive, but once you know where everything's going to be, it can also be a bit tedious. Click there, Control plus. If this is complicated as a Boolean, it's going to take a bit of time. I then need to H to hide that, and then I'm going to click that, and then I'm going to come here and click apply. It's all going to be quite tedious. Whereas if I come back here, Control and tilde, and I change this to destructive, what that's going to do is I can just do there, click Control plus, and you'll notice that I don't have to hide the object. There isn't any modifier. It's already been applied straight away. And it seems, and I might be wrong on this is me speaking totally anecdotally, it seems that because it's only doing the calculations once as opposed to doing it once, and then when you click apply, doing it again, overall this does seem faster. And then, for example, I could select there to there, Control and plus, and I've now done that all without having to go in and apply section by section. So that's Control and tilde, but you have to have hard ops, which is a paid for add-on. If you are getting it, do get it with Box Cutter because they work fantastically combined together and then you get a discount. So that's some basic ideas, and now I want to go into the more complicated part, and that is Boolean errors. Now what I've got over here is a column section that I was working on in the last video to make something that looks like concrete, and we're going to make this a little bit more complicated. So I'm going to Shift and D to copy the cutter. I'm going to press Z to take it down a bit so there's a bit of overlap, and then I'm going to take that object there. So what I'm going to do is click on the object, Shift click on the column, Control and minus, and we've got this quite nice concretey texture, and then I'm going to hide that, and then I'm going to do the same with this object here. So we've got some overlap. Now this is likely to cause some problems, some on the surrounding area, but especially where these two sections combine together, because Blender, where it mostly gets problems, is combining things with lots of small vertices or small faces. So how do we find out what problems we've got? Now, if you don't have it, another add-on that you really want to make sure is activated, and again comes with Blender, is found if you go to Edit, Preferences, and if you type in 3D print, and you must have the dash. If you don't have the dash, it doesn't show up, annoyingly. So 3D print, and here we have it, the 3D print toolbox. As always, save, or if you've got autosave preferences on, that's fine. Make sure the box is ticked. And then if I come to my object, press N, you'll notice we've got the 3D print option, and it has this check all option, which is going to check for errors. Now, first thing to say, if I do check all now, it's not going to show any errors, and that is because at the moment this is just a cube, and it doesn't actually have, if I go into edge mode, any of this taken out of it because it's not been applied yet. So this is why applying your Booleans, again, some people say, oh, just leave it and then it will be sorted out in the slicing software. That's not a great plan. So let's go over here, apply all. If you don't have apply all, if you go to preferences, again, add-ons, you'll notice Blender does have a lot of little add-ons that you have to activate, because otherwise if they were all activated, it'd be very slow. And type in modifier, you have modifier tools here, and that brings up these options at the top. Again, I've got a video having a look at this apply all, and there are actually quicker ways of applying things, so do feel free to check that out. Again, link in the top right hand corner and in the description. So apply all, it's going to take a bit of time to work it out, and now we've got that, and if I click check all, it will go through things and we've got some problems. Now if we have a closer look at this box, we've got a lot of different issues and errors that it's bringing up, and I had a really good question in my last video where we were designing this column, asking which are the ones to worry about. Now firstly, if that was you, I very much apologise, because not only did I not reply to your comment, I deleted it by accident. That's because when you go to reply, the reply and the remove button are next to each other and there's no way to undo the remove. So if that was you, I apologise deeply. I was trying to reply to you and I misclicked onto remove, but you're getting a whole video instead, so hopefully that is some consolation. So let's have a look at these, and we're going to talk through them one at a time to make sure we understand what they are. Now, of these, the ones that I would suggest you worry about is the first two, non-manifold edges and bad contig edges. They're the ones to be very concerned about. Then you have, moving down, intersecting faces. That is something you sometimes need to be worried about. I'm going to talk more about that, and that's probably going to be the biggest part of this because it's the one that takes a little bit of time to understand. And I'm going to be honest, you're not going to be an expert by the end of this. I'm just hopefully giving you some tools to be able to go away and you can then practice while saving yourself a lot of time. And then the non-flat faces is one that can be fixed, but a lot of the time you can use other programs to fix for you. The other ones, so 0 faces and 0 edges, all that means is you've got some really tiny faces. For example, if I come in here, that face there, if I go into face mode and click that, is really small. This is probably coming up as a 0 face. And actually, Blender has no problem with that. And it's just warning you that it's there. So you don't need to worry about that. 0 edges just means that it has really, really short edges. So for example, if I go into edge mode, that would be a really short edge. Oh, just in case you don't know this pie menu when I press tab is because I'm using machine tools. It has these pie menus to make things quicker moving between. You don't need to use those. You could just press tab and change between your different modes as normal in the top left hand corner. But that is machine tools. It's a free add-on. It's really good. And then thin faces, don't need to worry about. Sharp edges just happen when you have a very, sharp point to something. Again, you don't really need to worry about that, but it sometimes can cause some quite thin objects when printing. And overhanging faces is nothing to be concerned about. It just means that you've got some faces, if I go into face mode and select this, that are facing downwards. So for example, these face downwards in a way that actually it's saying might cause a problem when you 3D print. Now realistically, you're going to change the orientation of this, so that's pretty irrelevant. And as long as you support it correctly, it's not going to be a problem. So what I'm going to do is demonstrate each of these issues, and I'm just going to press Shift and A and bring in a cube, and let's bring that a bit bigger and bring that over here. And what I'll do is demonstrate what the problem is in each of these using this cube. And I'll also be showing you some things with that to try and hopefully prove some points, even if it is a little bit anecdotally with only one example. So let's click our object again. We're going to go into face mode, and I'm going to click that non-manifold edges. Now, there's some difficulty sometimes seeing this because this does auto-select it when you click on it. Sometimes Shift and Z will help you to see it. Now, this is actually very small as a problem. Now, if you're really stuck with it, I use the decimal point or the period key that's on my number pad, and that should zoom to it. And here we go. We've got this problem point, which is absolutely tiny. Next thing I'll mention is sometimes with these really tiny errors, you have some problems zooming in and out. If you hold Control and then your middle mouse key, it allows you to zoom in and out in a much more gradual way. So you can have a look at this a little bit more. Not that this is going to be an easy one to fix, but you can see how small this is. All we've got here is a very small error, and you can't even really see what this is. So let me go through and talk you through what this problem actually is. If I get my cube over here, and I'm just going to put in some edges, don't really need to do this, but it's just useful to demonstrate, and I go into face mode and I delete one of these faces, we've got an object that is now not what we'd refer to as manifold. Effectively, it means that if I put some water in here and I rotated the object around, water would be able to come out. And if I do check all on this one, you'll notice we've got 4 non-manifold edges. If I go to edge mode and click on it, that's the 4 edges. So that is what this problem, and also mostly the one below, shows you. Now there's several options of how we fix this. The easiest one is to select these edges. So I'm going to alt click there, and if we just press F, we've created a face that goes across them. And now if I press check all, that problem's gone. There are other options. For example, when this is a lot smaller, if I select all of the vertices and then that one last, I can do something like M and then go to at last, and it's combined all of those vertices into one. Now notice in this instance that creates some uglier geometry, but if I just undo that, click check all, we've got the problem, M at last, check all, that problem's gone. So 2 ways of fixing that depending on what you want. In this instance, that one of pressing F is vastly the superior way in terms of giving some nice geometry. So let's come back to here and let's fix this one. So check all again to refresh and recheck it. Go to edge mode, non-manifold edges, click the period key to zoom in on those. In actual fact, I'm going to go into vertex mode, and we can see here's the problem. All I'm going to do is select 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to do the merge at last. Now, if you've got machine tools, just be aware that you can do this much faster by just pressing the 1 key, and that will merge at last. Or you can actually do merge at center, which is Shift and 1. And either would be acceptable in this instance. If I press check all, you will notice that that problem has now disappeared. So that is non-manifold edges, and I would strongly recommend you always fix those in Blender. Now let's talk about intersecting faces. This is probably the most complex bit to discuss. There are effectively two types of intersecting faces that Blender will pick up. Some of them are deeply problematic and others are not problematic, and learning the difference between the two will save you a lot of time. Now I will say there's only 25 here, so regardless that shouldn't take too long to fix, but it is important to know the difference. So the first of these intersecting faces can probably be seen here. Let me zoom in and have a look. So some of these will be fine, but some of them will definitely be problematic. Here's one that's the bigger problem. So what you can see here, if you notice this flickering, is we've got some intersecting faces where one is cutting through the other. This is something you want to fix manually. Do not rely on another program to fix this for you. For example, I've mentioned before, and a lot of people will mention a program that comes free with Microsoft, or you can download it for free, called 3D Builder. And don't get me wrong, 3D Builder is awesome for fixing errors, but it will have problems with this. Now let me go out and demonstrate what these types of intersecting faces are on our cube. So if I just go into edge mode again, let me think how I can create this problem. I'm just going to select those, bevel those, and then go to vertex mode, and then Shift and 1 to merge, and Shift and 1 to merge. So what this problem is if I just move this and then move that, these are intersecting faces. If I select this face here, you will notice that it is being cut through by this face here, and this face equally is being cut through by this one. And what that's creating is, well, this section here, which actually you'll notice does have an inside space to it, but the problem is that it's all combined together into one. And importantly, this edge here, where those faces are intersecting, is infinitely thin. There's nothing to it, basically, which means that it's not really attached. It's so razor blade thin that this should be falling off. Now, this is a type of intersecting face. If I just do check all on here, and we can see we've got 4 of them, is that I would strongly recommend that you fix yourself. Now, what I'm going to do to demonstrate why is we're actually going to take this out into 3D Builder and into some slicing software, just so I can prove a point on this. And again, some people would say, no, just take it into 3D Builder and it'll fix it. That's not necessarily true. So I'm going to go to Edit, Export, and STL, and we'll talk about why this is a problem. And then I'm going to call this test cube intersect 1, and importantly, I want my selection only, so it's only that selected cube that gets exported. Export STL, and then let's have a look at this in 3D Builder. So this is 3D Builder. As I said, you can download it free from Microsoft if it's not already on your computer. And if I just go to Insert, Add, Load Object, and bring in my test cube that's intersected, and click Open, and then you get to choose your sizes. I'm just going to keep it as centimeters. Normally I'd change it to millimeters, and import model. Normally, if you've got something for it to fix, when you click on this, 3D Builder will recognize there's a problem. I'll show you this in a bit with our column, and then you'll have an option to fix it. But you'll notice it doesn't recognize this as a problem. So what it's got here is it's effectively tried to work out what's going on, and you'll notice that it's made this thing which isn't actually filled in the top corner, and if you try to print this, it's going to cause problems. So 3D Builder, as good as it is at fixing things, won't recognize all issues. And that is replicated if I go into some 3D slicing software. So this is Lychee Slicer. It's awesome. It's my preferred slicing software, though each person has their own. And if I drag my test cube in, we'll see it's there. And once again, it's not noticing any errors. But if I look at it, there's definitely problems here. So we need to fix this ourselves. It doesn't get recognized very easily by these other products. Now, luckily, that's a relatively easy fix. If I just go into vertices here and click that vertex and that vertex, I've got a few options. I can either merge them together, either at last, for example, there, Remember, I'm using machine tools, so if you don't have that, just M and then at last. So we could do that, or we could just do merge at center, and then that will fix that shape. Or we could just manipulate these around as we want. For example, we could use that one and then say, make sure that our auto merge vertices is on, GG, and then as we drag it down, that will combine with that one when we click, and it will automatically merge together. So coming back to our column, we need to do the same thing on these intersecting faces. So I'm going to click check all again, go into vertex mode, click intersecting face, and for some reason it does come into face mode, which is really annoying. So I'm going to go into vertex, and you can see some of these, for example, here. So all I'm going to do there and there, one to merge at last. Now this one, which if I click on it again was coming up, this is one of the ones that's not as much of a problem. I'm going to fix these anyway, just because it's not going to take long. This is why machine tools is fantastic. So all I'm doing is click, 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 and then one to merge at last. And then go back to my intersecting faces. I can click check all, it's reduced that, click it again, and it says where those faces are. So again, I'm just going through and systematically fixing these ones. Look, you can see here the overhanging face. So let's 1, 2, 3, 1, and that will be sorted. This looks a little bit messy as well. So 1 to make that sorted, and there as well. Check all, and we're reducing them as we go. I'm just going to speed this up now, just so you can see what I'm doing, but you'll notice it's just more of the same, trying to fix these problem areas. And now you'll notice at this point we have no intersecting faces that are going across this object where we have this complicated join. They're the ones that you need to be concerned about. We also have some intersecting faces up here, and you'll notice that this one's highlighted, and oh, it does actually have a little bit of an overlap there, so we should probably fix that as well. So just like that. Check all, and there we go. So relatively easy to fix intersecting faces, and some of them actually aren't problematic, as I mentioned. Now hopefully this one, here we go. This is a good example of one that is actually not a problem. So if you have a look here, we don't actually have any of that overlap to speak of. This is an intersecting face where we don't have a problem. Now this does become difficult to recognize, and I really understand that. That's going to be the bit that requires some time and some practice. But this, without having these overlapping areas, this is the sort of thing that 3D Builder will fix by itself perfectly happily. So if I come back here and now go to File, Export and STL, we're going to do the same thing. I'm just going to call this column, and then selection only is on, so Export STL. Let's bring this into 3D Builder and see what happens. So again, insert, add, load object, and I want my column. Open file, and we wanted this in millimeters, and as soon as I click on this, you'll notice that it has this in the bottom. One or more objects are invalidly defined, click to repair. We click to repair it, and it repairs. Depending on the complexity of the object, that could take some time. And now if I move around this and zoom in, this has fixed this error without any problems at all. It has saved me the time of going in and fixing that manually. Now if I come to Blender, obviously here, that's only 10 intersecting faces. So it wouldn't be the worst thing to fix. So we could do that manually. And I just will talk through this just to show what it is. Effectively, this is getting confused because we've got a curve here, notice this vertex, that is essentially free floating without any edges coming off of it that are really required, especially an edge going into, for example, this object here. If I press J to join those, that would suddenly become less of an issue. So the easiest way to solve this, if you want to, is just by selecting that, and then merge at last. Again, I used machine tools, but you could press M and then at last, but 3D Builder will do this for us. So we can do this, and it's not a problem when there's only a few issues. When there's something like, I don't know, I've had examples where this has come up with maybe a couple of hundred or 1,000 of these issues, it's quite useful to be able to recognize 3D Builder can solve this for us. So that is our intersecting faces. Quite complicated because some ways they need to be fixed, and in other ways 3D Builder will do it for us. And it's recognizing that that's going to be something that's going to save you some time. The final thing that I'm going to mention is the non-flat faces. If I go to face here and click non-flat face, there's going to be quite a lot of these on the intersection, and most of these are caused by Blender being, let's say, overly sensitive about what a non-flat face is. So for example, a lot of these will be fine, but actually these, for example, are an issue. So if I go into face mode and click this face, what you can hopefully realize is that this isn't, well, clues in the name, flat. If I go back into object mode and bring in a cube, Shift A, mesh and cube, we're getting this as a problem. So let's just S to scale this up. What we've got here is a face that is not flat. If I go to vertex mode and G and Z that up, hopefully we can recognize that this face here, the one on the top, isn't actually flat anymore. It has got a bend to it. And visually, Blender is interpreting this for us. It's put this faint line here, which is showing us that it is having to be curved. But if I go into edge mode, it hasn't put an edge there. Now, this is quite an important thing to understand, and it's to do with as we convert this to an STL. Blender works mostly in quads and faces, and actually it's got quite good now at faces not needing to be a quad, and it can work things out. It's fine with what we call n-gons most of the time. But when we convert this to an STL, STLs are not in quads. STLs are made up of triangles. So when I convert this to an STL, what this is effectively doing is, if I go into vertex mode, it's taking each of these quads, so for example this is a quad, and it's splitting it into triangles. Now, because this is perfectly flat, if I go there and put in a line, I'm using 2 on machine tools to do that, but you could press J, which would join it. It doesn't make a difference if I put the line there, or I go there and put the line. To the appearance of this cube, that makes no difference, because, if I just get rid of that, this face is flat. So Blender doesn't care. However, for this object, for this face at the top, it does matter, because if I, for example, go into vertex mode and put my edge there, so either 2 on machine tools or J to join, that is making this the fold. But if I undo this, if I selected those 2 and joined them, that now makes this the fold. So all this non-flat faces is doing is basically warning you that Blender is going to have to interpret something for you. You're not getting the choice here if you don't fix the non-flat faces. Now, in most instances, that is going to make no difference at all. Here, if I go to face mode and come back to that point again, if Blender interprets that, as if I go into vertex mode, as being there, I don't care if it's there or if it is there. This makes no difference to me. Though I will say that from a geometry point of view is slightly better. So realistically, we don't, in most instances, need to fix this. This is a great example of where we can just take this into 3D Builder, click repair, because I don't care what happens here. However, if it is an object that you do care what happens here, for example, say I don't want this fold, I want to have it on this fold, you will need to fix that yourself before you take it into 3D Builder. So I appreciate that's not the most exciting of videos, we haven't created anything amazing, but it's really important for 3D printing that we know these different errors and that we can decide or not whether we need to fix them. And once again, non-manifold edges, bad contig edges, fix them in Blender. Intersecting faces, it depends if the faces are actually cutting through each other. If they are, I generally fix it in Blender because it's the safest place to do it. Ones that aren't cutting through each other, you can do in 3D Builder. And finally, non-flat faces. Generally, you're okay just doing that in 3D Builder, but there are some instances where you're going to want to have more control over that. If you did find that useful, please do give the video a like, and if you aren't subscribed, consider subscribing, and I hope you have a fantastic day.